G'day folks, if you want to know what's inside my Vanquest Maximiser pouch, stay tuned. The pouch itself I've got set up for remote fly fishing off-grid. What I've got planted here on the back, my Gerber StrongArm. If you want to buy yourself a Gerber StrongArm that doesn't look like this and you want this instead, which is actually what I carry, not this one, go check out this video about things that you need to keep an eye out for, because I've been stooged. If you want to see that, go click on the other video. So let's go. The first thing that I've got in here is my Gerber StrongArm. This guy, as opposed to what I showed you before, is pretty much bulletproof. I watched a lot of videos on this online. I really wanted a knife that I could truly depend on. A lot of the scratches you can see on here are from batoning. If you're gonna have a fairly strong, sturdy knife that you're gonna rely on and it's not a counterfeit, my suggestion would be go and baton with it. You know, you buy a knife because you need it. So I had previously owned this guy for about close to a year. Before I started batoning with it, I gave it maybe, I don't know, 20 hits, broke into pieces. I have really put this through paces, and it's been great. Before purchasing this, I went through a stack of videos and watched guys cut open steel drums, hammered these things into trees and used them as step ladders. If anything, it gave me the confidence that if I was ever stuck in a situation where something dreadful had happened and I needed something really safe and secure, the closest thing I've got to safety protection is my Gerber. So I do carry other knives, but this would be my go-to. Like, I've thrashed this thing and it's still got bite. I don't know if you saw that. See if you can see this on the video. Let me go up here. That's a bit of nail shaving. Have a look. So you can see that there. Anyway, really reliable. I love it. I also love the sheath. There is a mechanism in here, just down the back there, that slides in and out through the molly webbing and attaches to this, which has got 3 prongs, which again goes through the molly webbing, and that attaches really nice and snug. So, you know, knife itself clicks in. You can stick it in either side, nice and sharp. You know, got this. In one of the videos that I watched, they described it as for cracking skulls. I don't know if I'd ever need that, but I think that, you know, oyster shells, or I needed to break something, glass window, whatever. I'm pretty sure that could do it. Won't serve the purpose of a hammer, close enough with a sharp edge. Let's put the StrongArm aside. And in here, so we've got 2 pull rings along the side on the zippers. I tend to throw in a carabiner. You never know when they come in handy. Within the pouch itself, we've got a Velcro at the top, so you can stick pouches or whatever. Within this front pocket, I tend to keep the this knife, which I'll show you up on camera. There, really nice knife. You know, I haven't flicked that all the way open. Really nice. The brand of the knife itself here is an X tactical blade, similar to the Gerber drop point knives. Gerbers do sell ones like this, but the ones that I've seen have got serrations along here. I personally can't stand the knives with serrations on there. For me, they're useless. Super sharp knife, again, same thing, very sharp. It obviously got a belt clip, which I stick on the inside of my jean pockets or a cargo pocket or something along those lines. I tend to keep my knives fairly well oiled, but that, you know, you heard that snap. Single-handed operation. You know, it's got a locking mechanism. Down this bottom area, down here, there's an area which you can push down, and that enables the blade to fold back over. You can do that single-handed, but I don't tend to like doing that anymore, because when the first weekend that I purchased this and I went out fishing, I pretty much sliced my thumb, almost the tip of my thumb off. I've gone to close this single-handed, and as I've closed it, I have closed this part here over the tip of my finger, and underneath the nail is where the knife got caught, and I've just sliced a huge gash. Didn't have any super glue or anything on me. I just taped it up as best as I could. Really like this knife. I purchased this from Anaconda from when they first opened, and to my understanding, this is similar to the Gerber drop point knives. So to my understanding, that's pretty close to what that is. I'll put that off to the side. The other thing that I carry here in the front is a mini torch. Now, this is one of 3 that I own in this particular size of lead lenser. Don't know if you're going to see the name there. So this is a lead lenser P3. I do own 3 of these. They're really good, and I like them because of the fact that they operate on a AAA battery. I find that super handy. Let me unscrew that to show you. So we've got a screw on the end, single battery, really nice. Obviously we've got a clip that you can, a pocket clip that you can, you know, stick on that way, or you can take it off and reverse it, so you can insert it into, you know, the of a cap that way, so you can actually stick it as a head torch if need be. The torch itself obviously is very synonymous with the lead lenser, where you can change the beam by pushing or pulling the head of the torch. It's only got one brightness on this, of course. So you can press it. It's a hard press where you can hear it. Listen to that. And that's on. Or press it softly, and once it engages, I really like the size because it's small. The pouch itself for me is not a complete survival kit. I'm not trying to live off of this for 2 weeks on end. This is literally to get me out of trouble. I've got enough in here to maybe get me through a night or 2 with the amount of battery power and whatever that I've got in here. So, torch in the front. Inside the pouch itself here in this front portion, I carry some spare blades, which are for, in America you guys would call these box cutter blades. Over here we refer to them as Stanley knives. I've only got 1 blade in here left at the moment, but that's my spare blade. The other thing that I carry, these are alcohol swabs, and I tend to use these either for sterilizing things like knives. There are occasions where I showed you before how I'd had busted my nail. When I've done things like that, sometimes you've got to go in there and, you know, you've ripped off half of the nail and you've got the other half still hanging on. If you don't want to get an infection, you're going to have to go in and cut it with a scissors or whatever. So in an instance like that, I would actually sterilize whatever I'm going to use if I'm going to open up a wound or something like that. And they're just handy to have. They're handy for cleaning up cuts. They're handy for cleaning up and sterilizing tools, cutting implements like knives, etc. So that's all I carry in the front there. Let's open up the rest of this pouch. And in here we've got what I did refer to as a box cutter or a Stanley knife. This is the Irwin brand. I really like this. Really like this. It's kind of got, you know, good grip. This is the sort of thing where I don't want to really mess up a knife such as this. You know, my batoning happens with that. In order to change the blades out of these, all I need to do is get this half pressed at a 45-degree angle. It's got this mechanism here, so if I click on that, you can hear that. I click on it. So at the moment I've got nothing. I click on, that's the blade moving around there. Click on this, and I can get the blade in and out. So these particular blades, I can flip them around. So when one side goes blunt, you can use up the other side. So you still got, you know, a 2-in-1 out of this. And the fact that you can replace them, I just think that that's quite handy. You can only take the blade out once you've got it in this 45-degree angle, then lock it in place, and that's pretty much how it stays, like that. So really quite handy. Again, another belt clip. Sometimes I may clip this onto, again, my cargo pockets or something along those lines. Really handy, really handy. I like to mix up my cutting tools because I don't like dulling up certain things unnecessarily. In his case, I've just got a small, like a tin container where I've got some paracetamol. I'll cut up a few. I'll write in the dates of when they expire, and generally I will spread these out throughout the first aid kits. So I'll have, again, in here I don't have enough to get me through like a week, but I might have enough to get me through like a day. Not quite 2 days, but you know, it's enough. I've got some duct tape around on the top and on the inside. Again, that's something I could reuse if need be. I'll put that off to the side. In here I keep a small ferrocerium rod. This thing's seen better days, and the reason this has seen better days is that I believe that it's been partially corroded by, I'm not sure if it was through fresh water or salt water. Again, it has seen better days, but the stuff that I keep in here is lasted me well. So fairly easy, you know, to get a spark going. Really easy. In here I've got 4 AAA batteries all taped up together. Really good. I've also got another torch. I believe it's a 7.5, 7.2, and that runs on 4 of these. If I've got that, I've got my spares for those. I've also got another 2 here, which would be for whatever torch that I've got, my main small one. I can get quite a few hours out of this. There is another torch that I do prefer to have in here if I'm dedicated and I know that I'm going somewhere specific. At the moment I've got it sitting in my bedside table because I do use it very frequently. And again, that also runs on a single AAA, and that's a Manca EO2 torch. I'll put in a separate video for that. Most of my equipment nowadays, most of my electronic equipment, where possible, I try and keep it to the AAA format because I can just fit so many in a small place. In here, we've got I believe this is, what brand is this? I can't see a brand. I bought this from an army disposal store, and what I've got in here is some cotton wool. So cotton wool buds, and I probably stuffed about 7 of them in here, and yeah, I've coated these with Vicks Vapor Rub, the ointment, so that the stuff that you kind of run on your chest. This stuff will take a spark. You know, if you've got cotton wool on its own and you try and light cotton wool will light, but within seconds, like a flash like that, the flame has just gone through it and burnt it all. If you soak this stuff with stuff like, you can also use Vaseline. That's not what I've used here, but or eucalyptus oil. Again, this is the equivalent, almost the equivalence of both Vaseline and eucalyptus oil, the Vicks Vapor Rub. So I've just coated all of cotton balls and just stuffed them in here. I've also stuffed them into the lid. So in the lid, I've probably got one big cotton ball in there. And in here, I probably originally had about 6 or 7, like all tightly packed. And out of what you can see in there and remaining out of here, I've probably started about 50 fires. You know, the reality is that this is how much I would generally use. I will show you how I do get a fire started going with this, but I only use a very, very small amount. You know, I open it up, I'll tease it out, and I might use something of about, sometimes that size. Alright, That'll be enough to get to strike a flame, and then for me to kind of encase that. I've seen people that would just go out and use that whole thing just to get a spark on. You don't need that. All you need is something just to hold the flame long enough for you to get the next round of your tinder bundle going, and you can get your fire going. Between that and a ferrocerium rod, there's a lot that you can do. Next thing that I've got in here is, I like to keep that along the side here, is a small sewing kit. They leave them as complimentary in hotel rooms. Obviously pre-COVID, I've had a stack of these laying around. I keep them in different various bags, but I like to always have sewing thread and needles. There's not a lot of thread in here, but it's enough to get you out of a pinch for fixing something if need be. There is also 2 clear buttons in there, and a safety pin. Really handy. Put that there. Moving on to, this is the thread, needle and thread that I would typically carry around normally. The thread here is being coated. It has got a coating on it, and this is a bobbin that's come from the fly tying material, but this doesn't fit too well with my style of bobbin holders for fly tying, so I've pretty much retired it and left it for my survival kit. So a lot stronger needle than I've got in that other one, this other kit that I just showed you. A lot stronger than that, and a bit thicker. That'll get you out of a pinch as well. That's my thread. In here I have got a Leatherman Squirt S4. This thing I have had in excess of 10 years. You know, you can tell that it's had better days. I absolutely love this thing. It's got amazingly sharp scissors on it. They're not completely clean. They've got gunk in there. You can hear it. It's still got a nice bite to it. You know, if I pull out a piece of paper, you know, let's see. Super sharp. I originally bought this for the scissors themselves. I believe that these have been discontinued, but amazing. It's got this side, I'm going to use my other nail, got a small blade. Again, there's a lot of gunk in here, but the blade itself, you know, I don't know if you heard that, very sharp still. I don't believe this one has ever been sharpened by me. So I've used it sparingly. If I've had this for in excess of 10 years, really good. In here, this other side, I've got a small, it's like a flathead screwdriver. I've obviously been relatively brutal with this because it's got a slight bend into it. Because I've been prying something maybe a lot harder than I should have. I don't know if you can see that in the video or not, if that will show. Anyway, so that's on this side here. The other thing that we've got on the other side of that, so I've shown you the knife. It's damn sharp. I'll keep that pried open there just for the sake. So that's been explained. In the back here, sliding inwards, we've got a really nice sturdy set of tweezers with angled edges. These are really good. Getting out splinters, getting out, you know, just really good. You know, plucking hairs. They're a lot sturdier than the Swiss Army style tweezers. That's in there. That's all. This side here, we've got a centimeter measurements along there, and this bit here for who knows what. I use this for cleaning nails, getting grease out of nails, or you know, in this case I've also got paint underneath my nails at the moment from doing some painting, so really comes in handy for that. Quite soft down here, but we've got a bit of a sharp edge towards the edge there. A bit of a diamond style file here. You know, I don't know if you can hear that. which is quite nice. So in there, and the other side we've got a small flathead screwdriver bit, which is kind of a bit on the pointy side. You can see that yeah, you can see that. And the other side, so you can get this into Phillips head, very small Phillips head screws if need be. I've obviously done that to a Phillips head because I can see that there's a bit of indentation on the ends there on both sides, and it's because I've shoved it in and held it. So look, although that they're flat style, you can get a bit of purchase around the Phillips head screws if they're small. This side we've got a flathead screwdriver bit right there, quite a handy size, and a bottle opener mechanism here for opening beer bottles or whatever. It's the only thing that they have around here nowadays, that everything else is in plastic. So that's the Squirt S4 Leatherman. Unbelievable. Really, really love this thing. Love this thing. I've also got a Leatherman Wave original that I've had for more than 25 years. So if you want to see that, that's in another video that I've already done. I'll see if I can put up links or something somewhere. So that's that. The other tool that I carry in here, so I would have gotten this before the Leatherman, and this used to be just for fly fishing. So the only reason I've gotten this is obviously a kind of Chinese knockoff. I've got this because we've got very small kind of pliers here. You know, they're not very thick. They're a lot thinner than the Leatherman style pliers. But I used to hang this off my fly fishing vest, and I would use this for getting hooks out of fish from the flies. So really like that. We've got a bit of a cutter along in the middle there for wire, like a small wire cutter. It's got indentations in it, so obviously the material is not great, but I believe that this is all stainless steel. Like I said, I've had this for longer than I've had the Squirt, so you know, we're pushing beyond the 10-year mark on this. In here we've got bottle opener, a small again screwdriver bit, which is it's kind of rounded and pointed, so it's quite sharp. In this other side there, now we're getting a bit, I'm going to have to use something to pry this open. What am I going to use? Let's use this. Actually, let's put one down. We might be able to get... No. This is the problem with a lot of these tools, is that you can't get some of them out because they're just so hard. Anyway, in here we've got a that's a can opener, because we got a blade that will cut in here. Haven't used a can opener in a very, very long time, but I suppose it's a good thing to have. In this side, again, you know, you've seen, I've just shown you the difference. I'm having to pry these out because there's, you know, not only just gunk, but just they're hard to use, and this is the sort of thing that where I'm constantly busting nails. So this side here is more of a flat kind of screwdriver blade. You know, like I said, it is hard to use. Didn't have an issue with the Leatherman, no issue at all. We got a small little you know, belt clip ring thing there, so that's on that side. This side here, okay, we've got the knife open. Blade kind of similar to the Squirt. Let me just close some of this stuff. Yeah, there's obviously no locking in there, but we've got a reasonably sharp blade. Again, this I don't believe I have. You know, look, it'll cut, but it doesn't have the same sharpness as as the Leatherman. Not a chance. This has, I haven't sharpened this as well. No, I can see the manufacturing grooves along there. Again, this is the sort of thing that, you know, there are other tools that I would go to more readily than just jump into this as my primary knife. So this side here, I've got two things. Both of them have come out at the same time. So we've got a file, which I believe this is a metal file. Yeah, I believe it's a metal file, and obviously nothing along the spine. We've got something along this side of the spine, so you can go in and, I don't know, if you're adjusting or making your own key, you could probably get away with using that. This part here with the rounded kind of hook bit, I suppose you could kind of, I don't know what you'd use that for, but I suppose that does serve a purpose. Again, here, flathead screwdriver bit, which has been, you know, kind of pressed down, so it does taper into a sharper edge. Get those closed. That's that. On the back side in here, just check what else is in there. No, that's it. We've got more alcohol swabs, which is basically isopropyl alcohol, you know, skin cleaning alcohol wipe. I'll chuck them back in there pretty much now. So that's all on that side. We've got a hook loop up here for attaching things like what we've got on this side, which is the, you know, like a small key clip, or I don't know, something along those lines. I'm just going to push that off to the side. I carry a Sharpie. Never know when you'll need one of these. This is relatively new. I don't like using blunt and dull ones. I'll usually buy one specifically, and it gets it dedicatedly lives inside, you know, a pouch of this kind. I have various pouches, but this is my general go-to if I'm going to be, you know, going somewhere where I need, you know, something strong for potentially batoning. And so Sharpie, pretty self-explanatory. I've got in here a little bit of different thread. So you've seen I've got my sewing kits along in there, but I've got white thread, which is a little bit thicker than standard stuff. Again, this is obviously before, at one stage I would have only had these two and not the kit, but as I come across these things, like they're like, yep, that one goes into this pouch, and I might keep some in a different backpack in the pockets of backpacks and so forth. So that's that. We'll put this to the side there too. I carry a length of copper wire. In here I've probably got about 1.5 meters of copper wire. It's reasonably thick copper wire, so you never know. You might, you know, there might be instances where I need to, you know, I don't know, let's say I've lost my ferrocerium rod, or I've broken it and I can't get a spark out. I could usually short out a AAA to get a spark to take to the cotton wool. So, you know, I'll do that sort of stuff in another video as well, so I'll explain through that. But also really handy, you know, you could use this for tying stuff down, you know, repairing a bit of an electronics if need be. Obviously it's not soldering, but it's good to have binding and lashing material, which is what that's for. Along here I've got a long shoelace of one of my wader boots. So it's not paracord, but it's not far from it. This stuff has got twine on the inside as well, and there's about 1 meter of it. So the reason I keep this in here is, in the event that, again, from a fire perspective, I've got I can potentially make a bow drill if I needed to. I don't think I'd ever dare to try and do one by hand, like just a normal friction fire. I don't think I'd ever go down that path unless absolutely desperate, because I think that I would lose layers of skin in the process. So the shoelace, really good. You know, plus you never know, you might need to lash and tie something down. I might decide that I need to make a spear out of this and I've got something to bind to it. So, you know, handy to have. I've got 2 contact lenses, spares. These are, you know, I do wear glasses and I do wear contacts. So these are spares of, in my opinion, what I believe to be the most comfortable contacts around, which are daily total ones, and they're just daily contact lenses. They're supposed to be disposable, but I have kept them in for more than a day. This stuff doesn't hurt your eyes, so providing you don't get gunk in them, you know, I'm not going to be changing out my contacts in the field, but I've got something in my bag that if I'm not wearing my glasses, then I've got something as an alternative. So spare contact lenses, check. Alright, let's continue with this. I've just got a felt pad here which has got sticky adhesive. Don't know why it's in here. Originally when I put it in, I must have had a reason for it, but you know, this sort of thing could potentially be, you know, you could use this for a bit of purchase on your fingers to, you know, for threading, or you know, who knows. But I think that there's quite a few purposes that I could be able to use that and safeguard my fingers from something. Along here, I've got another small blade. You know, this has seen better days as well. It's a very, very small blade. You know, that's the size of my hand there. Again, this sort of thing once upon a time was a replacement of this. This is a relatively new addition to the bag. This has been around for, geez, 15, 20 years I've had this for. I've had this for probably about the same amount of time as I've had my Leatherman Wave, my original. So that's about the 25-year mark. So this, look, it's held up pretty reasonably well. I sharpen it from time to time. It hasn't got a great edge, but you know, for cutting open, again, it just depends on what you need. If I don't want to damage a different knife on something that is potentially going to ruin the blade, then I'll use something like this. It's not great, it does have a locking mechanism, but I don't like to force these things into situations where they shouldn't, because the lock sometimes tends to fail and you can just cut your knuckles off. So anyway, that's got, the way to push that down, that's got a ball bearing here, which you press that and that pushes down a lever in the bottom, which allows you to pull the blade down. Again, this is supposed to be designed as a single, it's a small convenient little knife, not very sharp, but again, just another alternative. In here I keep a small compressed towel in the size of a tablet. This, I'll have to do a separate video on one of these, because I only keep one in here. I'm not gonna use this one up. So I like these as my emergency. But once you wet these things, I'll be able to get a hand towel that's kind of, it'll be about that wide by about that tall, decent size, not paper, but it kind of feels almost like, it almost feels like fabric, but I don't believe it's fabric, and I don't believe it's paper. It's weird substance. Anyway, This, what's on here does say that it's written in Japanese. So I don't know, but it's just a compressed towel in a regular size. I do have these in large size as well, so I'll dig that out for another video. Really, really, really handy. Even if it's just to wipe your bum. Okay, and the other thing, the very last thing that I keep in the back here, is I keep my silver compass, manual compass. Really nice. This is not their top of the line by any means. This is probably like a midway entry. It's got a long lanyard with it. The lanyard itself clips off. Takes a bit of an effort to get that out. So I'd have no hesitation of keeping that around me and knowing that that's not going to fall off. Yeah, so you know, it's got a bit of wire to it. The small fabric loop around here. We've got a mirror attached there. So let me see. Yeah, we've got a mirror in here. Highly polished mirror. We've got a little hole in the bottom there as well. See in here? In there, and you can, so with that little hole, you would put your eye through that, so you would, you know, obviously point it up to something and use that hole to, I don't know, signal down a plane, or I don't know, get somebody's attention from a far distance, where you can actually make, you know, get this kind of reflection going off and bounce light into someone's face and get someone's attention from far away. You've obviously got the compass component. We got some phosphorescent. Is that the right word for it? The in the center, two off to the either side of where the north marker is, and got some measurements. So these are scale measurements that you can read off maps. So we've got, you know, kilometer marks, we got millimeters, we've also got other, you know, just other standard forms for measuring distance on maps. So again, really nice. This really nice. You know, some of these parts will glow in the dark. So this is one of those things that, hey, you hope you never need it, but you've got it here in case. So that's it. This is pretty much everything that I carry inside my Vanquest Maximiser Pouch version 2.0. Really recommend it. For whatever reason, if you like it and you've stuck around this far, please, by all means, hit that subscribe button. It will go a long way to helping the YouTube algorithm. And yeah, give me a thumbs up. You know, you've hung around this far. Let me know. You know, leave me a comment below. Is there a way that something else that I should be including in this? I may update this from time to time. So as I find things that I need to have on me and I think, oh geez, I haven't covered myself in that situation, then I'll include other bits and pieces in here. But in the meantime, yeah, that's my review. Hope you like it. Stick around.